The silence in the car is like a physical thing. Not just quiet, it's heavy. You could cut it with a knife. For 3 hours, not a single word. No radio, nothing. Just the hum of the tires on the asphalt. Mom's staring out the passenger window like the scenery is the most fascinating thing she's ever seen. And Dad's got this white-knuckle grip on the steering wheel. It feels like I'm in a funeral procession, not the back of our family SUV. And the seat next to me, God, it's so empty. It's like a black hole sucking all the air out of the car. Of course it is. Because Sophie, Saint Sophie, the family's little porcelain doll, couldn't possibly handle the ride home with the monster. No, she got a special rescue mission from Aunt Carol, who drove 2 hours out of her way to pick her up yesterday, treating it like some kind of emergency extraction. And for what? I keep asking myself that, replaying it in my head. For what? Because I made a few jokes. Jokes. Can you believe that? It was a running gag that got a little out of hand, I guess, but to react like this. To cry and lock herself in her room and basically force us to pack up and leave 2 days early? It's insane. She ruined the entire vacation for everyone, but somehow, I'm the villain here. I'm the one who has to sit in this suffocating, judgmental silence. Honestly, it's so unfair it actually makes my stomach hurt. You get it, right? It was just a joke. Since when did our family get so fragile? I have to admit, the lake house was perfect. Like, straight out of a magazine. One of those places with a big wooden porch and a dock stretching out into the water. And of course, Sophie was the one who found it online. You would have thought she'd personally built it from scratch with her bare hands. The whole car ride up, Dad was like, "Good eye, Soph. This place is a real find." And Mom just kept saying, "Our little travel agent, you have such great taste." Meanwhile, I'm the one who played a masterful game of Tetris with our luggage for an hour, sweating in the driveway to get everything to fit. And did I get a parade? Nope, just Dad yelling from the porch, "Arya, are you done yet? We're burning daylight." And it just kept going like that. It's like this invisible scoreboard that only I can see. The first night, I'd brought Scrabble, our classic family game night game. I thought it would be a nice throwback. But Sophie, of course, whips out some brand new, obscure European board game with a million tiny wooden pieces. "I thought we could try something new," she said, all bright and shiny. And just like that, Scrabble was forgotten. We spent the next 3 hours trying to decipher rules in broken English while everyone praised Sophie for being so adventurous. Then the food. God, the food. She makes a salad. And I'm not kidding, it was just lettuce, some cherry tomatoes, and a few slices of cucumber. But she drizzled some fancy olive oil on it, and suddenly she's a culinary genius. Mom took one bite and just gushed. "Oh, Sophie, this dressing is so sophisticated. You just have a knack for these things." Sophisticated, it was olive oil and lemon juice. The night before the incident, I spent 2 hours making my 4-cheese lasagna from scratch, the one Mom always asks for on my birthday. And all I got was a distracted, "This is nice, dear," while she was scrolling through the artsy photos Sophie took of the sunset on her phone. You see what I mean, right? It's this invisible scoreboard, and she's racking up points for thoughtfulness and taste and adventurousness. And I'm just the stagehand, the one who makes sure the lights work and the props are in place. I could feel it building in my chest the whole time. This wasn't a vacation. It was another round of the secret, silent competition, and she was winning. She was always, always winning without even looking like she was trying. So then it happened. It was late afternoon, that perfect, lazy part of the day when the sun gets all golden and warm. I was just sitting on the porch swing, actually feeling kind of peaceful for a minute, scrolling through my phone. And this cat just strolls up. A fluffy orange thing from the cabin next door, probably. It wasn't doing anything, just, being a cat. It rubbed against the railing, stretched languidly in a patch of sun, and started purring. A sound you could barely even hear. And Sophie just implodes. I mean it. 1 second she's humming and sketching in her little notebook. The next she lets out this tiny, pathetic squeak and practically levitates off her chair. Her face went completely white, like all the blood had just drained out of it. She scrambled backwards, her legs tangling, knocking her chair over with a loud clatter that made me jump. And then she hid behind Mom like she was 5 years old again, peeking over her shoulder with these huge, terrified eyes. You'd think a demon had crawled up from the lake. And cue the cavalry. Instantly, Mom and Dad are on their feet, a blur of motion. Mom goes into full-on mother hen mode, wrapping her arms around Sophie, cooing, "Oh, honey, it's okay, we'll make it go away. It can't hurt you." Her voice was all soft and syrupy, the voice she used when Sophie scraped her knee as a kid. Dad puffs out his chest and takes a step towards the cat like he's about to fight a bear, making these loud, aggressive shooing noises. "Get out of here, go on, git." The cat, looking totally unimpressed by this display of suburban masculinity, gives a little meow, flicks its tail, and saunters off back towards its own yard. The whole drama lasted maybe 15 seconds. I just sat there on the swing, watching the whole performance. And I couldn't help it, a laugh just sort of escaped. It wasn't even a mean laugh, not at first. It was a laugh of pure disbelief. It was so ridiculous. She's 23 years old, for God's sake. I looked at her, still trembling behind Mom, and I said, "God, Sophie. It's a cat, not a tiger." And here's the thing that sealed it. The thing that made everything else happen. They laughed. Mom and Dad. It wasn't a big, hearty laugh, you know? It was one of those tight, awkward little chuckles you do when you don't want to make a scene. A little puff of air through the nose from Dad, a strained smile from Mom. Dad shot me a look like, "Arya, don't." But he laughed first. I saw it. I heard it. And that little laugh, that was everything. It was like a secret signal. It meant they knew. They knew she was being completely, utterly ridiculous, but they were trapped in this cycle of coddling her, and they didn't know how to get out. They needed someone to just pop the bubble. A little switch flipped in my brain. It felt powerful, like I'd finally found the key to the game I was always losing. In my head, I wasn't just being mean. I was being honest. And I decided, right then and there, that I was going to keep being honest. I was going to help them see. Dinner that night was my stage. I can see that now. But at the time, I honestly felt like I was on a mission to expose the absurdity of it all. We were having grilled chicken, and as Dad put the platter on the table, I leaned in towards Sophie with this conspiratorial whisper and said, "You better check that for cat hair. You know how it gets everywhere." Silence, just the clinking of forks. Mom gave me a sharp, warning look, but I just smiled like I was telling the most innocent joke in the world. I felt this rush, you know? Like I was finally in control of the family narrative, so I kept going. I started making these little meowing sounds under my breath, just quiet enough that you weren't sure if you'd heard it. Sophie's fork was frozen halfway to her mouth, her knuckles white. Dad cleared his throat. "Arya, that's enough." But it wasn't enough. I was on a roll. "I was reading this story online," I said to the whole table, my voice all bright and conversational. "About this woman who was so scared of cats that she had a heart attack when one jumped in her window. Can you imagine, just poof, gone because of a little furball." "That's not funny," Mom said, her voice dangerously low. But I was playing for a different audience. I was playing for the win. I turned directly to Sophie, who was just staring at her plate, looking smaller and smaller. And this is the part, God, this is the part that makes my stomach clench even now. I looked right at her, and I put on this fake, syrupy, concerned voice, mimicking Mom's from earlier. "You know, Sophie," I said, "if you could just get over this one little thing, maybe Mom and Dad wouldn't have to spend so much time worrying about you. They could, like, finally relax. You wouldn't have to be the baby of the family forever." That was it, that was the kill shot. It wasn't about the cat anymore. It was about everything. The competition, the coddling, the invisible scoreboard. I had taken this secret thing between us and just detonated it in the middle of the dinner table. She didn't even look at me. She just made this tiny, broken sound, a little gasp. Then her shoulders started shaking, and she pushed her chair back so violently it screeched against the floor. She ran. Just ran from the room, sobbing, and a second later we heard her bedroom door slam shut. The slam of Sophie's door echoed in the dining room, and it was like it sucked all the air out with it. The three of us just sat there, frozen. The smell of grilled chicken and my ugly victory hung in the air, thick and nauseating. The half-eaten food on our plates looked obscene. Dad was the first to move. He threw his napkin down on the table, not with anger, but with this finality. A quiet, decisive gesture that said, "This is over." He didn't even look at me. He just got up, his chair scraping softly, and went straight to her room. A few seconds later, I could hear his muffled, gentle voice through the door, the low, soothing rumble he always used when she was sick or scared. He was fixing it, he was cleaning up my mess, but Mom didn't move. She just sat there, her hands clasped on the table, staring at me, and her expression, God, I'll never forget it. It wasn't anger. I could have handled anger. Anger is loud and hot and it burns out. This was worse. It was this look of cold, clinical assessment, like she was a scientist looking at a failed experiment, like she was seeing me for the first time, and she didn't recognize the person sitting across from her. She waited until Dad's footsteps were gone, until the only sound was the hum of the refrigerator. And then she spoke. Her voice was perfectly calm, perfectly level. No yelling, no emotion, just ice. What is wrong with you, Arya? It wasn't a question, it was a diagnosis, a verdict. There was no room for an answer, no invitation for an excuse. And in that moment, I knew I had miscalculated everything. I had thought I was winning, that I was finally exposing the truth of our family dynamic. But looking at my mother's face, I realized I hadn't won a thing. I had just shown her a part of myself that she had never seen before, a part that was cruel and ugly. And I could tell, right then, that she would never be able to unsee it. The next morning was a blur of quiet, efficient packing. The vacation was over. There was no discussion, no vote. It was just done. Mom and Dad moved around the house with a grim, wordless teamwork. Aunt Carol was called. Arrangements were made in hushed tones in the other room. Sophie came out of her room only when she knew Aunt Carol's car was in the driveway. She had her sunglasses on, her bag was already packed. She hugged Mom and Dad, a long, quiet hug. And then she walked right past me, right out the door, without a single word, without even a glance in my direction. It was like I was a piece of furniture. That was it. The systematic isolation had already begun. The silence in the car on the way home was just the beginning. The real punishment started when we got back. It wasn't loud. It was quiet. A deep, penetrating quiet that filled every corner of the house. A few weeks later, I noticed the family group chat had gone silent. You know, the one where Mom posts pictures of her garden and Dad sends bad jokes. I thought it was weird, so I texted Mom, asking if her phone was broken. A few hours later, she replied with a single sentence. We started a new one for Thanksgiving planning. No invitation. No explanation. Then my cousin Jenna called. She's always been the family switchboard operator, you know? She sounded so awkward. Hey, so I talked to Sophie, she started, and I could just hear the cringe in her voice. She's really not doing great, Arya. There was this long pause, and then she delivered the line that felt like a punch to the gut. She told me, I always knew she didn't like me, Jenna, but I never thought she would enjoy my fear. She said it was like watching you get pleasure from her pain. A third-party echo. Hearing my actions described back to me like that, it was brutal. It was like looking in a funhouse mirror and seeing a monster. For a second, the anger and resentment just vanished, and I felt this wave of shame that was so intense it made me feel sick. But then, almost immediately, the old feelings rushed back in to protect me. She's just being dramatic, I thought. She's turning everyone against me. She's playing the victim again. It was easier to be angry than to sit with the truth of what Jenna had said. I just mumbled something like, well, she's exaggerating, and changed the subject. But the words just hung there. Enjoy my fear, God. Christmas came, not with a bang, but with the quiet glow of my phone screen in a dark room. I was scrolling, just killing time, avoiding the hollow silence of my apartment. And then I saw it, a post from my mom. It was a family picture, of course. Everyone was there, crammed onto the sofa in front of the fireplace, wearing stupid matching pajamas. Dad, Mom, Aunt Carol, Jenna, and Sophie. Everyone was smiling, this big, bright, happy smile that felt like a personal attack. And in Sophie's lap was a puppy. A little white poodle, a hypoallergenic one, obviously, with a ridiculous red bow tied around its neck. She was holding it close, burying her face in its fur. But it was the caption that really did it. The caption was the final twist of the knife. Mom wrote, "So proud of our brave Sophie, facing old fears by making a new friend this Christmas. Welcome to the family, Gus." Brave Sophie, facing old fears. They hadn't just moved on. They had rewritten the whole story. The vacation wasn't the time I was a monster. It was the origin story for Sophie's heroic journey of overcoming trauma. A journey that, apparently, required getting a puppy. And in this new, perfect family photo, in this new, perfect story, there was no space for me. I had been edited out. I won that stupid argument at the dinner table, I proved my point, and my prize was being erased. I looked at the photo, at Sophie cuddling that stupid dog, looking so happy and so victorious. And the only thought I had left was, see, she won. She always wins.